Tibum Huxley, Woo Kilti Hazirum Zipti. Lam Tibum Huxley, Woo Kilti Hazirum Zipti. I come from one of the most ancient and honorable families. May I join and aid in the destruction of the enemies. Through some strange freak of nature, thou lackest every means of wielding the battle sword, of couching the lance. If thou canst withstand the fury of the infidel, another glory will be added to the name. According to rights and laws of my native land, let it suffice to accomplish one of the most wonderful feats in mountain climbing, namely the ascent of the loftiest peak of the mountains of the moon. While groping about, my father had come into contact with the two beasts of burden. They had soon fallen into a deep and most delightful sleep. Wrapped in the refreshing slumber, they knew not. We shall be put to some awful torture by these wild children of the forest. Again, my poor parents fell a-sneezing in regular and musical cadences, up and down, deep and shrill, now faster and faster, now slower and slower, until silence reigned again. They had no difficulty in expressing all the necessary feelings and sensations. Down, down, I fell, striking in the soft mud and disappearing from sight. One fine morning, to the great surprise of my 32 tutors, I searched the whole of them. Upon my attaining my 21st year, I would be provided with a sufficiently large income to live as a baron should. Scatter the contents of that parchment evenly and plentifully throughout each almanac on the pages devoted to the months of November, December, January, and February. The elder baron's mind was now clear as to who had conceived the crime in which his poor fowls had so unwittingly become the accomplices. We were, in ancient times, very large landowners on the coast of the North Sea. Judging from the effect of Thor's hammer upon these floating masses of planks and timber, a single blow would suffice to crush the very life out of my ship, in spite of her unusual staunchness. Now is our time or never. Glorious Southland, I greet thee. Thy child comes again into thy arms. Oh, take him up. Hear, then, what the mystery consisted of. Some dweller of the far-away north might dream about, yet it was untrodden by the foot of man. By means of a kind of sign language, gave me to understand that they desired to touch me. With fierce shouts, deep and rumbling, they came nearer and nearer. Their massive forms swayed like walking oaks, stood up, wrinkled, creased, and seamed, as the wind-eaters always look when fasting. Swift and noiseless are their steps. Phantoms they are. She needed wings to be an angel, but oh, her fair face was so filled with sorrow. They live, I cried in a loud and joyous voice. They live. I am not the sport of any strange divinity. These figures are not cold and senseless marble, but warm-blooded, breathing, thinking. living beings. From the first coming of the twilight, smiles had been slowly gathering upon the faces of the other youths and maidens. As ancient Egypt was visited with scourge and plague, so have been our ancestral lands. Enter not in the home of darkness. 100 pilgrims have laid their bones in the moss-grown depths of the great gloomy forest, the great Aryan forest, in which countless centuries ago the human race, having abandoned their holes in the clay banks, first learned to the wild beasts, feed on his flesh, and clothe themselves in his skins. The answering bark of a dog came floating on the morning breeze. I like thy brave and steadfast soul. I had noticed ere the darkness came that I was standing near the projecting shelf of rock which was to serve me as a bed when nature called me to rest. My heated pulse beat at the thin walls of my temple until it seemed as if I should go mad. It was his first act of disobedience. I stretched out my hand to solve the mystery. We are coming to thee, temple of silence and gloom. Let us into thy dark corridors. Thou art victor. From thy buckler of darkness fall the sun's arrows. Let us in from the roof and the glare, from the roar and the glare. Let us in from the roofless world. This is not the gateway, my son. Somewhat northward still, I catch the perfume of the foliage which clothes the two ebon columns of the gateway, alike in size and grandeur. Now is my time or never. Now clad once more in its black, glistening, treacherous slime. The man-hoppers' legs so dwarfed their bodies that they appeared like cones upon two legs. There was the title, complete transcript, etc. I opened the book. Its pages were thinner than the finest tissue I had ever seen. I turned to the last page, 20,000 pages. They were all filled with minute dots and strokes, shorthand. And I sail away for hundreds and hundreds of miles. The waters were in a state of most violent boiling and leaping into the air as if a legion of giant demons were beneath, forcing their hot breath upward from vast cavernous lurking places. Upon reading of this boiling sea, I was seized with an uncontrollable desire to go in search of it, knowing from my experience with such dread inhabitants of the deep that this monster had only whetted its appetite by these morsels of human flesh. I directed my men to make haste and construct a straw man. Into the bosom of this effigy I stored away of prime quality, which by good luck I found in my stock of medicines. A thought struck me. A quill will save me. Sulphurous fumes now darted from the four quarters of the heavens, and crash upon crash. Or is it of deafening thunder rattled and pealed over our heads. I'd often heard of what travelers termed the quarries of the demons. Ergo, on describing our ascent into the giant swell, for the eyeless man in the city of light, for the mouthless man in plenty's bowers, for the earless man in music's realm, for the noseless man in the kingdom of flowers, they only laughed the louder, crying out. White light with its inky shadows, made alive and half-human, she lowered her black fan and bade me gaze upon the heavy heart, that mysterious little thing. They shall look upon the speck within thy heart. Thou shalt not even be visible to them. Our silent conversation had so wearied him that he had sailed off into the land of Nod on the wings of a dream. They have solved a problem of the upper world. We are still struggling over. Their icy hearts felt a cold shiver of satisfaction. The next obstruction will shatter it into 10,000 pieces. It had been forced to fly from certain death by crawling down into these underground caverns. I came to point out the door which I wanted open. I was shot out into the glorious sunshine, and then, by easy stages, set out for home. Wall Street had sweated golden vein in its desperate efforts to fasten the chains of trusts and the claws of soulless monsters, known as corporations, upon these very common people, soon to march in triumph before the silver chariot of the young conqueror from the west. Here lies a friend of the common people. There was a fearful awakening and a gasp of the miser, who sees his hoarded treasure melting away from before his eyes. The holy writ, for once, at least, was disproven and discredited. Gradually, this outbreak of popular indignation lost some of its strength and virulence, for it was easy to comprehend that nothing would be bargained at this stage, were there not everywhere evidences of an intense hatred. The bill would come up for final passage, and so frequent the interruptions by the contumacy both of members and of the various cliques crowding the galleries to suffocation that no progress could be made. My country, men, oh my countrymen, the president must withdraw. His presence here is a menace to our free deliberation. There was a tone of godlike authority in these few words. The spectacle was grand, marring. And accents that were so gentle and so persuasive. With a sudden blow that startled every living soul within its hearing, a fearful and thunderous discharge, caught up in the surge, a deadly fall, a deadly pallor overspread, as of 1,000 monster pieces of artillery, making the stoutest hearts stand still, blanching, disfiguring the tidings of passing away. It had died. The Republic of Washington was no more. Agios agoge, agios su, agios mais, agios chmais, agios emas, agiatas, drill Sergeant Gray, agios sunha, hasha, noctulius, nithra, shugara, Shaitan, Satanus, Aosath, Olenos, Azanagin, Nakala, Gawath Am, Leletu, Lilith, Banan Oth, Litigon, Darkat, Abatu, Sapanur, Karasamsu, Namaku, Batsturga, Maktoron, Valpacula, Kathana, Athushir, Ausath, Vindex, Falcafer, Davchina, Saractanus, Naas, Alas Taurus, Baphomet, Rizora, Edela, Venora, Uella, Ira, Ariane, Kas, Azoth, Azif, Lux, Hrileu, Lucifer, Nox. Now, as you may be able to tell, I had some issue reading my own handwriting in places, and so I'm going to show you quickly the pages involved. Other direction. And all of them are quotes from the Baron Trump collection. And I think it captured a sort of Northwestern European spirit and direction towards what is going on with the United States. Lam Huxley wo kilti haziram zipti.